Hello, how are you?
Good. Is this the Paul and Denise show?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Are we on the air?
Yes, we are.
We're
Oh
excited. Woo!
So how are you, sir?
How you guys doing?
We're doing wonderful. We're doing
So
wonderful.
what do you got for me?
So we were actually just talking about you, about all the stuff you've done, and
I
you've
didn't
done a
realize you
lot.
did. I didn't realize you did First and 10. I watched that show. I totally.
Come on, you just watched it for the tits.
Well, yeah, I did, but it was
Yeah,
so funny.
baby. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
You know what's great about that show is that,
The
you know,
tits.
because they had, I worked with OJ for 6 years.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Holy shit!
He was the general manager on the show.
Yeah.
I played the general manager, and Delta Burke played the owner of the team, and at one point, Chris Maloney, from SVU, played the quarterback, and Jason Begay, who's on Chicago Cop or Police or whatever it is, that show right now, is lead chief of police there, was the quarterback in one play. You know, a lot of people came and went, but a lot of the players, the people that played players were, more football players than they were actors. So they would, the writers liked my character, so they would put me in bed with women all the time, which I thought was very funny. Instead of putting the studs in bed, they always put me in bed for the comic relief.
Maybe they wanted to make it look like, the average guy could get some pussy.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can say what we want on here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd have stuff like, I'd go up to two girls and go, "Hey, I play for the California Bulls. I have $50, yes?" I just didn't understand that. That's how it works,
Right.
Great character.
God. So you were a stand-up comedian to start with, and
well, it's
first
funny
time
the way that happened, because it actually started in the theater as an actor in the theater. Got my degree in theater from Towson University.
Mm-hmm.
That's where what's her name went? Who's the hot female comedian?
Sergeant Bernhardt.
No, Sandra Bernhardt.
No.
No hot.
Oh.
Did you say Sandra Bernhardt?
Excuse him, he's British.
Not hot, not young. No, the one that just had the movie about dating and stuff. What's her name?
Oh, Amy Schumer?
Yeah, Amy Schumer.
Yeah, Amy Schumer.
Yeah.
She went to Towson.
She's getting cuter.
Not the same year, obviously.
Right.
But I moved to New York, and I struggled in New York, and I made my way doing sketch comedy and street performing, and the occasional off-Broadway show. And I landed an off-Broadway show about stand-up comics, and Star Search saw me in the show.
Hello?
You're on with our buddy from Tales from the Crypt. Sorry, we just connected to Heather, and she's a fan of yours, and we wanted to put her in with you.
Sure.
So, okay. Yeah, so continue what you were saying.
Oh, just saying that, they want the talent scouts from Star Search saw me in the play and asked me if I wanted to come on and be a stand-up comic on Star Search. And I was like, oh, I'm not really a stand-up comic. I'm just playing it in the show. And they go, well, you can win $100,000. And I was like, did I tell you about my stand-up routine? But, so I, having come from doing street performing and sketch comedy, I was, I had to start writing all my own bits each week, and I kept winning and wound up in the semifinals and beating Rosie O'Donnell in the semifinals.
Wow.
And I beat Sinbad in the finals, and all of a sudden I was a stand-up comic. Everybody in L.A., was exposed to me as a stand-up comic, not as an actor. So, but one of the first things I landed was First and 10, and worked on a number of other stuff for HBO over the years, and then, of course, that led to Tales from the Crypt.
Right, that's crazy. That's correct.
Yeah.
So, did you have trouble getting serious acting jobs after everyone knew of you as a stand-up comic?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people were like, I was like, well, how come they don't audition me for, that cop show and stuff like that? They're like, oh, he's a stand-up comic, And so I did the sitcom type stuff, which was great. I mean, I enjoyed doing comedy. So, but even that, they were, like the roles that I would get were pretty much bouncing off the wall type characters.
Right.
And so, you work a long time trying to convince them that continuing to do theater in L.A. and that kind of thing. People started to see my acting work. Of course, then they're giving shows to all the guys who were stand-up comics. And then I was like, hey, how about giving me a show? They're like, you're not really a stand-up comic. You're an actor.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Backfired.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But, I mean, the 7 years on First and 10 had to help you out quite a lot.
Oh, yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time working on that show. We had a great time. I mean, there was, and I would do a pilot. The great thing about First and 10 was they shot during the summer when none of the other shows were shooting. So I could do a network pilot. I could shoot First and 10, and if the network pilot got picked up at the end of the summer, then I could, hop onto a show. And then once I had Tales from the Crypt as well, I was doing 3 series at the same time. So it was, feast or famine kind of situation, and it helped kick off what's now 38-year career.
That's crazy. There's a lot of people that don't last 5 years. Even if they hit it crazy big, the only way's down after that. But you haven't. I mean, I've been reading some of the stuff you're doing. I didn't even realize a lot of the stuff was you because your voices are so. And that's not an insult. It's the fact that it's so different. That you have such a repertoire. You're like Mel Blanc.
I was
with
just
some of the
gonna
stuff.
Oh, thanks.
Definitely,
I think that's a huge
definitely.
compliment.
Yeah,
Say again,
absolutely.
darling?
Harrison.
Absolutely. We were just watching your reel, and we were trying to figure out because your reel doesn't show what the show is. And, I didn't grow up here in the 80s. I come from England, so I don't know a lot of the shows in the 80s. There was a show where it looked like you were on Cheers, but...
Oh, it was on a show called FM.
Oh, okay.
First, it was Alan Burns had created that show along with a guy named Dan Wilcox, and Alan Burns created Mary Tyler Moore and Lou Grant and all these...
Somebody, I got to hang up on Heather. Somebody's making a lot of noise.
Is that your fax machine?
Yes.
That's not us.
Heather, you're making a lot of noise.
Dial-up.
Like I'm sitting here and I'm like...
The dial-up almost...
You want me to call you back, or is that the line, or is that something else?
I'm trying to...
It's her line.
It's
not
her
you.
line. Hold on a second. I'm trying to figure out how to just hang up on her.
There's always
See,
one that spoils
for
the
all
show.
our listeners, you don't realize that these guys do it out of their closet.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a room.
We have a room.
And they have
We're
like a
good
fax
rated.
machine in the corner. Not a fax machine anymore.
Yeah.
out of their closet in 1998.
Yeah, the problem was it
heck
sounded
was that?
it sounded
Got a
like you
kitty
were
litter box in the corner.
yeah, Heather, it sounded like you were running a vibrator, which is quite possible knowing you, but
All I did was plug my headphones into the phone, so I unplugged them and it's gone now.
Yep.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Weird. All right, I won't be doing that again.
Yeah,
Shame on you,
You
girl.
nearly made our amazing guest hang up and not call us back, even though he said he was
You
gonna.
made us look low class.
Well, lower than normal anyway.
Yeah, careful with those vibrators. You can chip your teeth.
It's funny we've
You
been.
got that joke out of your closet from 1998 too, huh?
I'm sorry, whoever that was just speaking, you're very muffled.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
There, that's better.
Yeah, there you go. It's
For real?
yeah.
That was
Don't,
better?
don't eat the mic. I know
I
it
was just gonna
resembles
say,
a
I think she
vibrator.
was like-
I'm talking into a cell phone.
Yeah. Oh my
You guys
God.
For
are
real,
all
the Crypt
catching
Keeper's busting
someone's
my
vibrator.
balls? Seriously?
Say again?
I said the Crypt Keeper's busting my balls?
Yeah,
Seriously? Is
absolutely.
this happening?
Hell
I didn't do
yeah.
anything.
Heather,
If
You didn't
you
even know
got
me.
balls, I'll bust them, baby.
Heather, hang up and let me try and call you back because your line is so shit.
Believe it or
Hey,
not, Heather is a stand-up.
Yeah, she's a stand-up. Yeah,
Is it better now?
a little bit.
Are you standing up? Maybe you're sitting right now.
Yeah. What do you
No,
know?
I decided to take the phone out of my vagina. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't
Oh,
talk
that's
to
so much better.
Yeah,
It
it's clearer
sounded-
now,
A
right?
little
It's-
better
yes.
delivery.
It sounded like you had your car parked in there.
Whoa.
I had you on speaker, so I
Oh.
can have no comfort during this phone call. That's
No.
Oh,
I can't use my
Sounds like
headphones.
me,
I can't have you on speaker. That's all right. I'll suffer. It's
Yeah,
okay.
you'll suffer. This modern
To
technology.
hold the 2-ounce phone up to my ear.
Oh,
All
poor
right.
Heather.
So you did Reefer Madness. You did the movies and the musical off Broadway, right?
Yeah, that was incredible. That was more fun than probably I've had my whole life. I got to do it. Andy Fickman, who was the director, had called me here in L.A., I think it was probably like 1998 or something like that. We did it here in L.A., and he called me, and I knew Andy. We had mutual friends, and we had not really worked together except doing some improv stuff together. And he's a very creative, funny guy. You know, Andy is having directed a lot of different movies, like She's the Man, and what was that movie with Billy Crystal that was out last year? And then what was his last picture? Oh God, Escape to Witch Mountain, and all these different movies. But so Andy called me and said, hey, we're doing this play, and it's 99-seat theater, which doesn't pay anything, but it's an intimate space, so you do something, it can be a lot of fun. And I said, these two guys, Dan Studney and Kevin Murphy, knew your work from when they were in college and saw you off Broadway in Three Guys Naked from the Waist Down, which was the musical that I had done playing a stand-up comic years ago. Starting with Scott Bakula and Jerry Coker. And they said, they had you in mind for this character, and, it's not fully fleshed out, but they want you to come in, and, So, I had a lot on my plate at the time, and I was like, God, I don't know if I could, if I have the time to do this. And, we were going to have a blast. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And, of course, we did have a blast, and a lot of the original cast members were able to go on to New York. New York wasn't easy because we opened 5 days after September 11th. That happened in the middle of our rehearsals.
Yeah.
So, and we were down near the NYU campus, which is like 13th Street, and everything below 14th Street was, pretty much, felt like a war zone. Mm-hmm. And so, it was a tough time to open, obviously to open a show, and we ran as long as we could with the people who were in the city. Obviously we weren't getting any tourists into the city to see the show. But there was a lot of people wanting to get out of their heads and the whole deal coming in to see Reefer Madness. And it was, it was on that level, it was a rewarding experience for that purpose. But, about a year later, we get this phone call and say, hey, Bob Greenblatt over at Showtime wants to make this into a movie. And we're like, okay.
Yeah, I'm in.
That sounds like a lot of fun, And so, of course, I was already working on stage with Kristen Bell in the musical. She had done the musical, and Bob Torty, who played Jesus in it, was in the original production, and Christian Campbell, who was in the original production. And they took us, and then they cast some other people in some of the other roles, bringing in Nev Campbell, Christian's sister, to come in and play, do a really great, wonderful cameo and dance number in the show, and brought in Steven Weber, who is just one of the funniest guys ever. He's kind of like a leading man with, he's like kind of like a buffoon in a leading man's body.
Right.
And Anna Gasteyer from Saturday Night Live is just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman named Amy Spanger, who was working on Broadway at the time, and she's been in Legally Blonde on Broadway, and I think she's currently doing the lead in Chicago right now on Broadway. But really wonderful to play Sally the Reefer Slut, and of course me. And we had a blast. I think we were up like 2-3 months up in Vancouver, laughing our asses off and partying and having a good time. And of course, Alan Cumming, playing the lecturer, which was a really great surprise. Alan's such a unique talent that brought like a whole different kind of shade to what we were doing. So that was an incredible experience. And if you ever get a chance to see it, roll up a fatty. And you'll laugh your ass off. It's all for shits and giggles for sure.
Yeah, Alan Cumming's been in some great stuff.
Yeah.
You got to work with I think that would be the best part about being an actor is to actually work with the people that you've watched before. You know.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, when I came on the scene after winning Star Search, they tried to pair me up with every, you know, well-known older comic that was out there.
Right.
You know, they tried to put me on a show with Carol Burnett and Alan King and Cheech Marin, and I did wind up doing a pilot with Sid Caesar, who you guys probably
was funny in the
know,
Carry On movies.
know his work,
Oh,
but
my God.
he was the John Belushi of his era,
Right.
you know.
Definitely.
And
Of course you remember Sid Caesar.
and so, you know, that was a lot of fun. So, you know, I've got to meet a lot of my heroes over the years and do improv on stage with Robin Williams and, you know, that kind of thing. It certainly have gotten, one of the big treats that I've had in the last couple of years was doing Jack the Giant Slayer. And with Bryan Singer, who's an incredible director, does all the X-Men movies, and shooting in London for 4 months. And I was doing motion capture because I was playing a two-headed giant with Bill Nye, the British actor Bill Nye, who you know from Love Actually and all those different films.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You know Bill, right? The
Yep.
wiry,
Yes.
you know, actor who's really great. And I always used to say, "Hey, Bill, somebody told me you know Keith Richards." He's like, "No, John, I don't know Keith Richards. I just look like someone who should know Keith Richards."
Right. In the movie Love Actually, he played that character.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I was just thinking while you were talking, and you could have been Chong. You know that, right?
Yeah, right.
You were almost Chong.
I was almost Chong. No, actually, you know what the problem was? You came in and you know bounced off the walls for these guys, and they're like, you know, he should have his own show. You know, they're kind of afraid to have you as a second banana stealing the light.
Right.
But you know, it's like, of course, if you're a good actor, you know how to play second banana, third banana, whatever.
Right.
And you know, I mean, I've gotten the opportunity to play top banana in you know, which is a circus term or, you know, vaudeville term for the guy who's the lead comic.
Right.
You know, in a lot of different things over the years, including having my own kids show on the USA Network, which was really kind of out there, which wound up skewing really well to stoners.
That was johnnytime, right?
Yeah, I think Mike Myers, this was before Mike Myers was on Saturday Night Live, so we didn't really know who Mike Myers was at the time when I did this show in 97, I think. But it was, Mike Myers had his own kid show where he played all the characters except the kids he pulled onto the show through the TV set. And, you know, we'd go, like the kid had lost her braces and I'll take her into the couch and we'd go in the couch and there would be all these weird characters in the couch and shit like that. It was really psychedelic.
Yeah.
You know, we had Wayne White who did all the sets for Pee-wee's Playhouse,
Right.
do all our sets, you know, and they were all like spinning wheels and weird eyeballs and stuff like that were all on the set.
Well, Pee Wee
And
Herman,
got to hire all
Herman-
my friends to, you know, to be all the different, you know, my friends who are art directors and friends who are directors and friends who are producers and everything to help me do it. And it was a really great show. I should try to get that one up on a YouTube channel so people can see it. It's a real fun show.
Yeah, we saw the
Called
Pee Wee Herman
Johnnytime.
show I think it was on Broadway. That was pretty crazy. I'd like
What's
to see
that?
the Pee Wee Herman show that he did the live
Oh,
show.
yeah.
I'd like to see a live version of your show. That would be pretty cool too, because you know you've obviously got the talents to do that. Do you think you could do that character now?
Yeah, you know, I had that. It actually was launched from a live show. I had a show called Confessions of a TV Junkie, and you know, because I really hadn't done much stand-up when, you know, I won Star Search. You know, it was something that you know, because they saw me playing this character in this play. You know, a lot of my act wound up being kind of a stream of consciousness of characters and, you know, pop culture through television. And the idea was that I played a guy myself, but played a guy who was, you know, addicted to television and how that, you know, affected me. And, you know, I'd try to go to meetings and that kind of thing, but I would wind up spouting out like the entire movie of The Wizard of Oz in 2.5 minutes, you know, that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a fun thing, which is really what led to voiceover work for me, because everybody knew I could do all these characters and voices. And Tales from the Crypt was really my first big voiceover job, even though I had done it even all through high school. I was, my best friend and Fred and I used to do all the morning announcements and stuff, and people would really look forward to our morning announcements.
Did you walk into the audition for the Crypt Keeper with the voice already decided in your head, or did they kind of tell you what they wanted?
No, not at all. It was neither. I didn't have any idea, and they didn't have any preconceived ideas of what they were going to do other than the puppet. They had the auditions actually at Kevin Yeager's studio, and if you know Kevin Yeager, you know that he's the creature maker who made the puppet, but also directed all the Crypt Keeper sequences, and also created Chucky. Made Chucky. The automated version of Chucky, and in fact, a lot of people don't know this, but the Crypt Keeper's eyes are actually Chucky eyes that he had left over in his shop.
It's funny you mentioned Chucky because there's a kid working in a pizzeria in North Jersey that was actually the kid on the first Chucky movie.
Oh.
But he's working in a pizzeria now, so that worked out for him.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. He can have his own conventions right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Pizza and signature.
Yeah, you get a photo, an autograph, and 2 slices of pizza.
Right. 2 slices. I'll have a slice, please. And pizza would be nice too.
I want to slice them up.
But yeah, it was that getting to do that kind of stuff is a lot of fun, and getting to go into an audition where you go in, it was it was a dream come true for me. I had when I found out that they were even making Tales from the Crypt into a show, I was like, you're kidding me, because I had collected the comic books as a kid, and so I was really excited about it, and went in, and Kevin had the puppet he was working on. He had a couple of different versions of it, but he had narrowed it down to pretty close to what you see now.
Right.
And so I went into, backspace that Kevin had set up with just like a, microphone in his boombox that he was, recording onto cassette tape. And you're talking about 1989. Right. 1988 is probably when I auditioned for it. 1989 is when we started shooting. So, I go into it, and I could see that he had holes in his throat and, rotting teeth, and had all this flesh falling off him. So I wanted to give him some texture.
Right.
And, it was funny because I was watching some of the other actors that were sitting in the waiting room, and there weren't a lot of people that got to audition for it, maybe a dozen people or something, and a lot of them were like Michael Winslow and, other, well-known voice actors and comedians. It was they needed somebody who could be an actor, comedian, and a voice guy.
Right.
So I could see them looking at the copy, going, "What? Be careful what you ask for. You may get it. This is terrible." And I'm just thinking to myself, these guys don't get it. He loves saying this shit, which is really what spurred him laughing at it, for me to go in laughing at my own jokes, and I just kept building it until I was, doing it for Kevin and doing this laugh. And then he was like, I could see him, egging me on in that direction. He was like shaking his head, yeah, like that. And I'm doing it for him. And I just do this blood-curdling scream, kind of, an homage to Margaret Hamilton from the Wicked Witch of the West. And he was just like, he just sat there speechless with his mouth hanging open.
That's awesome.
And I didn't know if he liked it or not. He just went, "That's fucking great." So they called me up, and the next day I was doing it for Joel Silver and Richard Donner, in their office, which was like, come on, the biggest guys in the business at the time. And they still are, huge in the business, but at that time they were. Nobody was bigger than those guys.
Right. Yeah. So when you do when you did the voices, I know now they film a lot of the voices completely separately. Even people that are having conversations as characters, they film different halves of it completely separately. Did you go in there and just do the whole thing in one go with whoever else was needed, or?
It depends. It depended. We would always record 1 or 2 episodes at a time.
Right.
They were usually shooting one episode and prepping the next one. You know, it was an expensive show to do,
Right.
and on the budget that they had to, they had to get a lot of favors. I mean, all those stars worked for scale. The directors worked for scale. You know, when I first started the show, I worked for scale. I never really got paid a lot on that show. It was just, they couldn't. It was an expensive show to pull off for television. They were running it at a deficit so that in syndication they could hopefully make some money on it, and of course with all the merchandising and stuff. But it was. If it was brand new today, it would be right back on the air. But those guys don't have the rights to it anymore.
Yeah, what happened is I was reading somewhere that they're talking about bringing it back, but they're not going to bring the Crypt Keeper back because somebody else.
Well,
owns
it's
the
different
right.
people.
Has rights
So
to
it's it was TNT and M Night Shyamalan.
Right.
Shyamalan, is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think so.
And sorry if I butchered your name.
I had enough trouble saying Kassir or
It's
Kassir.
Kassir.
See, there you
Kassir.
go. See, I got it wrong. Sorry, I'm British. I
It's
apologize.
okay. Nobody gets. They either spell it right and say it wrong, or say it wrong and spell
Spell
it.
it
Yeah, there you go.
Say it right or spell it wrong.
It'd be
Whatever.
Kassour in England.
I'm changing it to Shyamalan.
Yeah.
John Day Shyamalan.
So you didn't film the whole series of beginnings and ends to the show in 1 week or one couple of days. You did.
Oh no, they would wait till they had the tone of the piece almost cut together so that they knew what it was going to feel like.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted the wraparounds were, needed to really connect with the story and have the feel of each story. So. And then if they had people on the set, like let's say we did, some with Whoopi Goldberg or Arnold Schwarzenegger, that kind of thing, I'd go down to the set so I could speak to them. They wouldn't have to play to a playback, you
Right.
know.
Gotcha.
So they had somebody off camera to actually talk to them as the Crypt Keeper. So that was kind of fun, and that's how we got it done. So they would prep all these different episodes, and they'd have two different camera crews, and one would be prepping the show while the other would be shooting it, and we'd get through a season. Obviously the first season were just 4 episodes, but they were all the biggest directors. I mean, those episodes were directed by Bob Zemeckis, Walter Hill, and
Wow.
Richard Donner.
Wow.
That's big.
Yeah, that's big.
Very big.
How do you get a puppet show to get directed by those guys?
I know. It's amazing. Amazing stuff, And, if it were up to us, it'd be back on the air. But, years ago, the rights lapsed in the Gaines family, who owned the rights because their father created the comic book.
Right.
We're trying to do something different with it in the meantime. And, of course, now when everybody would love to see it come back on the air with all new directors and new stars and that kind of thing with the same kind of style of which it was originally done, they don't have the option to do it because they don't have the rights. So, and within those rights, the people who have the new rights don't have the rights to this Crypt Keeper because this Crypt Keeper was made by Kevin Yeager specifically for Joel Silver and Richard Donner and Walter Hill and Bob Zemeckis and David Giler, who were the original producers. So it's a catch-22. The new guys can have the rights to Tales from the Crypt, but they don't have this Crypt Keeper. They can come up with their own Crypt Keeper,
Right.
but nobody wants to see that.
I don't want to see some crazy computer-generated CGI that looks quote-unquote amazing. I want to see the original puppet.
Yeah, it was cool because puppets are creepy.
Yeah, and it has to have your voice.
That's what I was just
I
going
mean,
to say,
it has
but what
to
about
have-
your
yeah.
voice?
I mean, it has to have
Of
the
course.
Crypt Keeper, but it has to have.
Well,
the voice.
I'm
It has to be Crypt Keeper.
I'm beholden to the original Crypt Keeper,
Right.
so it's not my character. I don't own him.
Right.
Right.
Right,
Right.
but
I do him, and of course I could have my own voice. I could do what I want with it, but who would I can't go representing myself as the Crypt Keeper,
Right.
On camera and stuff like that.
Right.
Certainly, I could entertain the fans with it, and I get asked all the time, "Hey man, can you come and do some samples for our rock album and stuff like that?" And I was like, "I don't own the character. I can't do it for you."
Right.
You can license the character from the Tales from the Crypt people and do it, but that's not cheap,
Right.
So, over the years, of course, I've done things, bumpers for radio stations. I mean, all that stuff we've done over the years.
Right.
Every season, we'd launch a new season or one of the films, and I'd do, 50-some radio stations over 2 mornings while it was drive time, across the country. So I get up really early and start really early on the East Coast, talking to people on the East Coast and doing radio shows like this. And they'd each get, 5-10 minutes, whatever, and I'd plug what, the new season and do the Crypt Keeper and talk to them and that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun.
So you could do the voice, you just can't say you're the Crypt Keeper? Is that pretty much it? Or
Well, no, I mean, I can't represent I can't go record something professional
right.
as the Crypt Keeper. I couldn't go do a car commercial as the Crypt Keeper or anything like that. They'd have to license that from those people.
This is the Crypt Keeper, buy a Kia.
Furniture that'll kill you.
So the last season, did you get to go to the UK to do the film in there as well?
No, there was no need. They shot the episodes there. I just go into the studio and I do 1 or 2 episodes at a time.
So they didn't,
which was fun. But I mean, I've worked over there a couple of times, and Jack the Giant Slayer was a good example of it. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, that was a big cast. That was Stanley Tucci and Ewan McGregor and Ian McShane and Nicholas Hoult and
there's some names there.
I mean, it was great. And Bill, of course. And Bill and I were playing a 2-headed, giant. So we got to do all this motion capture together, walk in tandem and do, like I had to mirror him and then act separately with my head and my right arm. It was very bizarre.
Really?
I don't know if you've seen it, but it's actually quite good. It didn't get a very good marketing push when it was released at the beginning of the year that it was released, which I think is now like 2-3 years ago.
I think it has a little bit of a cult following now, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it reminds you of one of those really great action adventures, like when we saw, one of the original, not the original King Kong, but the one with Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, that was on AMC last night, actually.
Was it?
Yeah,
I loved that.
Yeah, that was
Jessica
good.
Lange.
She looked.
Man,
she was hot.
She was hot in that.
Oh,
man.
God. Is she hot
But
now?
it had that kind of feel to it that I grew up with, where you could take your kids that weren't too afraid of that kind of thing and taking them and go, and the whole family could be lost in it. It was a really great adventure movie. But I mean, Brian does all these edgy X-Men movies and stuff. I think they marketed it to that audience, and that really wasn't the audience for it. I mean, not that they wouldn't enjoy it, but that's not. You need that audience, plus it needs to cross over. And the new X-Men movie, by the way, is going to be awesome. I got
who was the person that you looked up to so much, and then you actually got to work with them? Was there anybody like that?
Well, I mean, obviously Sid Caesar was somebody I looked up to because as a kid, I mean, I used to watch all the great comedians that were on TV, whether it was Sid Caesar or Red Skelton or
I used to love Red Skelton.
all these great comedians. I got to work with a lot of the different comedians. I didn't get to work with her, but I got to audition for her for about an hour. It was Carol Burnett, and that was an incredible experience. Robin Williams, of course, was like, the first time I saw Robin Williams, I was like, that guy just stole my career. It's because you like to think you're unique, and then you see somebody with the genius of Robin Williams, and you're like, oh, I thought I was funny doing that stuff.
Was Robin Williams always on, or was he, when he was not working, he was just like quote unquote?
What you saw Robin Williams is what you get. I mean, he was very smart. He was a very, very smart man. Extremely smart. His brain is very quick. And I mean, he could speak in French, and it would be from a specific part of France. I mean, that kind of stuff. So, and you could see when he'd be interviewed or talking, he'd be very serious. Oh yes, well, blah blah blah. And so he was kind of like that. Well, that kind of chatter. But, he was a hardworking man. His stand-up he was brilliant enough to just go off and improvise into the stratosphere. But his act was so good and so well put together that even when he wasn't improvising, it looked improvised.
Right. I wonder how.
And that takes hard work, and that takes, a lot of intelligence. And, he used to come into the improv where I was playing as well, and on the other comedians, and he liked my stuff, and he goes, "I'm going to go up stage. Why don't you come join me? I'll give you a little signal to come up on stage." So and one of his buddies was a good buddy of mine, Rick Overton, who, if you don't know who he is, he's great.
I've heard the name before.
He's the actor. He's older now, but he's been in a bunch of stuff over the years. But you'd know him now because he's in the GE commercial where he's trying to give his son an axe. He and his mother are sitting there. He and his wife are sitting there and telling the son, "Hey, Grandpappy, when did you have this?" He puts the axe on the table, and the kid's going, "Well, Dad, I'm working for GE, and I can." He goes, "You can't lift it, can you?" Next time you see that commercial. It's Rick Overton. Anyway, Rick's amazing. But he calls us up on stage, and the next thing you know, we're dancing with Robin, and wow. you'd have to keep up, and you'd really have to get your licks in there, or he'd leave you in the dust. But that certainly was an incredible experience. I got to open for some pretty incredible acts as a stand-up comedian after winning Star Search. I opened for the Temptations and the Four Tops on their TNT tour, and opened for Lou Rawls and Bobby Vinton and Rodney Dangerfield and Richard Belzer and all these different music acts that I'd known since I was a little kid. That was pretty incredible.
Did you open for Tom Jones?
I did open for Tom Jones.
Oh, wow.
He was on Tom Jones was on Star Search when I was on Star Search.
Oh, wow.
And they had him. He came on the show, as a guest host, and he's talking to Ed, and everybody's backstage, and we're all watching on the monitor in the green room while the other acts are going, and he was obviously there to introduce the music people. And Ed goes, "Oh, we got a big announcement to make." And he goes, "Why don't you tell him, Tom?" He's like, "I really like that comedian. He's going to open for me in Las Vegas." And everybody's like slapping me on the back going, "Congratulations, congratulations, that's great." I was like, "I can't open for Tom Jones." And they're like, "Why not?" I go, "I have no fucking act." I wasn't a stand-up comic. I'd just been writing this stuff, 2 minutes at a time for the show, So when I found out, I was a lot more relaxed about it when I found out I only had to do 20 minutes. And that was, 2 minutes at a time was tough enough. But,
was it
I took some of the bits that I had done on Star Search, and then I got myself into the clubs, and I started working in acts. Eventually I had an hour and a half act that I could be a headliner in the clubs. And back then they had at least 2-3 clubs in every city. You could,
right.
I didn't really like traveling around doing comedy clubs. It really wasn't my thing, but it was certainly a nice way to go, bring yourself to each city and then also to make some extra money.
Why did they have comedians opening for musical acts back then? Is that that doesn't happen?
You don't need a whole setup. It was just a thing to do. I mean, Billy Crystal, all those people started doing that. I mean, if you go to Vegas and Brad Garrett used to open for Frank Sinatra and he would do his act, that kind of thing, because you wanted something different. A music act is we get used to that when we see bands. I was in a comedy group and we opened for we're all from Baltimore, and Grateful Dead came to play in Baltimore, and we went up on stage to perform for them, and people had taken their drugs and they were peaking, and they were like, "We timed our drugs for the band, get off!" And the bouncers were in the back getting high with the band and that kind of shit. So we had people coming up on stage grabbing the microphones out of our hands and stuff. But I think for the most part they go in just to give the audience something different to start off the evening. Get the audience engaged.
Right.
You know, it wasn't always easy. I remember opening for Lou Rawls at Michigan State in their amphitheater, which was seats like 5,000 people. And having done New York theater and stuff and working in theaters at 1,200, 2,000 people, wasn't that big of a deal. But when you're doing stand-up comedy, it's kind of like you have to wait for the laugh to go out to the back and then come back from the front, And it was a different experience for me, but the audience loved it. And Lou Rawls was like, "Hey man, I haven't had the audience was so engaged with me, and when I talked to them, they talked back, and we had a good time. It was great, and it was like, you did a good job of warming them up. I was like, hey, thanks. You can't get a better compliment than that.
I wonder. I was just thinking, these days with all the internet and everything, when some of these actors go off the rails and do drugs or whatever, it's all over the over the papers and the internet and everything. I wonder what it would have been like if a voice actor went off the rails.
You mean in real life, or just playing that part?
I wonder what a voice actor such as yourself would look like if you were Charlie Sheen, is what I'm getting at. Because
if I was Charlie Sheen?
Yeah, remember when he went off the rails like a year or two ago, and he was doing all these internet broadcasts out of his mind and saying winning. All
yeah,
the time.
Right.
Can you imagine?
It'd probably be like Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh my God. So you started getting more and more, voice work after Tales from the Crypt, right? That's where all this started.
Voice work is great. I mean, as an actor, it's fantastic. I get to play a lot of stuff I would never get to play on camera. I mean, I was the original voice of Deadpool.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to hire me to play Deadpool on camera. I'm 5'8", 160 pounds. I look like I'm in good shape, but I look like, I'm very, I'd get to play Charlie Chaplin before I would get to play Deadpool.
What did you think of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool?
I thought it was great.
It was funny, right?
I thought it was hysterical.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that I was always thinking to myself when I was originally doing Deadpool, I was like always thinking to myself, oh God, I would so like to push this guy further. But I know, you're not really in the position to even suggest stuff in those games. They're telling, each line is carefully thought out what they're going to do with it and that kind of thing. So, but I'm thinking this character could really be pushed. He can really be like filthy mouthed and the whole deal. And that's what they did with the movie. And I was like, yes, that's how I had always imagined that character to be.
So you didn't get to be the uncensored Deadpool like the movie is, right?
Right. Exactly.
How do you think you would have done the uncensored Deadpool different to the one you did?
I mean, I would have taken him to the same point. I would have made him. I mean, he is sarcastic and he does, in your face kind of thing to the other guys. But, when you can hit on the women and tell the guy, hey, dude, next thing that's going to be up your ass is going to be my cock. It's like, it's a little different. It's like the kid's mom comes in the room. What's this? It's X-Men Ultimate Alliance. Did I just hear something about going up somebody's cock up somebody's ass? No, Mom.
That's
Their times have definitely changed.
I think that a lot of parents took their kids to see Deadpool thinking, it can't be that bad. They were expecting X-Man. Maybe he says shit once or twice. That's about it. Yeah.
No, it's funny, man.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when my dad took me to see Beverly Hills Cop 2. He was fine with the whole thing. It didn't matter how many times they said fuck, but when they went to the Playboy Mansion and all these chicks were jumping around in bikinis,
right.
He's like, yeah, this is a little bit more than I expected.
Yeah, my best friend in my neighborhood, his dad took us to see The Godfather. I think we were 8.
Oh my God.
Or something, or we might have been a little older than that, but whatever. And he had a little bit of a speech impediment, and we're sitting there in the movie theater, and all of a sudden the scene, his wedding scene, when the girl drops her negligee, and it's tits were a big deal then, on the screen,
right.
And we're sitting there like, holding on to the back of the seats in front of us and like sitting forward, and he's sitting there mumbling to himself, going, So, at times they have changed.
I noticed
you can drive down Sunset Boulevard now and see more tit than that.
Right.
Exactly.
I noticed that for a long time, tits went away in movies, even R-rated, like quote-unquote sex comedies, like American Pie.
Right.
But just lately, it's come back quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think they finally figured it out. They're like, people want to see that. You know what I mean?
Fake tits. That's why it's figured out. It's. I remember on First and 10, the first season, they were like, listen, the word has come down from the network that we're not casting good enough tits.
Well, now
You're going to have to start screening the actresses for their tits before they get hired if they're going to show them on camera.
What the fuck happened when they auditioned Lena Dunham then?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Well, she would have had to audition herself. What? She probably took her clothes off and looked at everybody and went, what?
Yeah, really.
What?
and she's the one who gets naked the most in that fucking show.
Oh, it's disgusting.
And I'm like,
My wife and I watched it last night, and it says at the beginning, it goes, strong language, nudity. It goes, why don't they just say it?
Yeah.
It's Lena Dunham naked,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
nudity.
yeah.
And
But,
I think I'd rather watch
hey,
6
God love her.
Anything
I think she should probably realize we really don't want to see her naked, but God love her for going there, and I'm sure there are people with body issues that probably appreciate it, and why not? There's so many. If you go back and look through film history, there's so many films where people are naked and they don't look great naked, but there was a reason that they were naked. If you're just going to do it for gratuitous reasons, you want them to look good.
Did you see the other day somebody posted a photo from a cover of some foreign magazine, and it had Lena Dunham on it, and she thought because it looked good that they photoshopped it. And they actually had to provide the original photo that her publicist had approved to prove that it actually wasn't photoshopped because she looked skinny. It was like a side angle type deal.
Oh, they just got it from a good angle.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'd rather watch 6 Feet Under with all the dick in it than watch Lena Dunham.
Yeah, right.
Paul liked Queer as Folk. That's what.
I didn't watch that shit.
Was.
I actually, you know what? It's funny because someone, everyone's like, Queer as Folk's fucking amazing. So I sat down to watch it, and I got like 4 minutes into it, and then there's this fucking full-on gay sex scene. I'm like, oh, this isn't for me. 6 Feet Under was great, but then when he was having sex on the hood of a car with the other dude, I'm like, this is not what I'm expecting, But, I guess that's HBO. You get a bit of everything. I mean, that hasn't really been a shitty HBO series. It really hasn't.
No, there really hasn't. And I got to work. Also, it's not only First and 10 and Tales from the Crypt, but I also, recurred on Dream On as one of Brian Ben's friends, Chuck. He was living out of his car because he had a bad divorce, and showed up on some of the other shows there.
Are you watching Vinyl?
Say again?
Are you watching the Vinyl show?
Yeah, I'm watching it.
It's good, right?
I do think it's good. It's not what I expected.
Right.
I would have liked to have seen it. It's almost like I don't know if it's trying to be Mad Men during a different era or what it is, but it's kind of like I would like to see more things outside of just the nucleus of the characters that they're portraying.
Right.
It's not bringing me into. I was around then.
Right.
It wasn't my adult era. My early adult era was actually the 80s, but I was in college in the 70s, I knew what was going on. I know what New York was like. I lived in New York from 1980 to 1987, and then, of course, I've gone back and worked there, but, that was more, Studio 54 and that kind of shit.
Right.
And I appreciate the actors. They're great actors, but obviously because the music rights are expensive and stuff, they're not playing much music from the era,
right?
Which I was expecting. you know, like even the songs that they do pick are like songs that are like, this must be in the C side on a record. Wouldn't be A or B side. It's like C side. I've never even heard this song. Who's it by? Who's that supposed to be?
Right.
You know, and
I did like Personality Crisis when they played it when the building was collapsing.
Right.
That was cool.
Yeah.
And it's also good how they've actually intertwined real people, you know, real people from the time into the, I guess, the fictional story.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Mick Jagger's like one of the producers, so he knew a lot of these stories, and they're saying that it's, you know, it's not really based on his life, but there's like things that have happened to him in certain ways with different people.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, these stories are great, but you know, you'd like to see them happen more than just, you know, like the, you know, 3-4 actors.
Right.
You know, I want to see what the world was really like out there during this time.
I think they're spending enough money. Imagine how much it would cost if they did that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's really just a matter of, incorporating it. I mean, you know, Mad Men did an incredible job of that.
Right.
And they never really went too far outside of their realm. You know, they actually went through 3 eras. You know, they went through the 50s, 60s, and the 70s on that show.
I wonder what the budget is for like the 2-hour premiere of vinyl. I wonder what they must spend so much money doing that.
Yeah, I don't know what the budgets are on television these days.
Right.
I mean, if it was $1 million, $2 million budget back in the day, that was pretty big.
Right.
But you know, now it's I mean, it's subscription television is huge because it also plays in other areas. You know,
Right.
people can rent it on Amazon and they can rent it on Verizon, and they can all the different places, Netflix, and all that stuff. So there's a second life for those things for them to make money on them.
Yeah.
You know, and Olivia Wilde ain't bad to look at.
Yeah, really.
You know,
at least, but you know what? Back then, you know, when TV was, you know, older, they'd actually would have had to blow a building up.
Yeah, right.
You know, they couldn't have just done it with a computer, so they probably saved a bit of money then. Or they would have had a shitty model like in Thunderbirds. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah, right.
where you know, you could see the guy's finger pushing it over.
Yeah, right. I can see Bobby Cannavale's string.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing funnier than, I don't know if you ever go on the moviemistakes.com where they list all the fuck-ups in all the movies.
Yeah.
There's some funny stuff on there that you don't even notice. I'm like, how did the guy see that?
Yeah.
You know. So,
oh, look, Ray Romano has somebody's hand up his ass working him.
Yeah, right? Or there's a reflection of a camera in some guy's car.
It's funny with that hairdo. He kind of looks like a Muppet. I love Ray Romano, though. He's so himself, you know.
Yeah.
He's really good at it. He's really good at it.
So when they asked you to do characters for like Looney Tunes and that, you must have been really, really crazy happy about, oh my God, I'm doing voiceover for like characters that have been around.
Oh gosh, yeah, Pete Puma is one of the funnest characters I've done in a long time for the new Looney Tunes show.
Right.
You know, because Pete Puma, I know you. He was just like one of the funniest characters to me as a kid. He may have only been in all the Looney Tunes that were made. He may have been in 3 of them. Wow. But he was such a distinctively memorable character that everybody remembered. That when they asked me to do it, I was just like, hell yeah, I want to play Pete Puma.
That's awesome. And then you even did Scooby Doo.
Yeah. What influences you to like create the voice?
What influences me?
Yeah, like
usually the material is the first place that I start. I mean, I may draw from other things. I mean, you know, as an actor, you know, most of the time when you're working on camera, you're trying to draw from yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, for cartoons, especially in different animation, sometimes you have to work really fast. Like I go in and I'll do additional voices on, say, like Minions, or I'm in Secret Life of Pets, and I'm also in Zootopia, and you know, all these different characters that I will do on that. They'll do all in like one day. You know, they'll do it as ADR or whatever. Some of it you'll do before they animate it. A lot of it you'll do afterwards, where you go in and just add voices in there. So you have to come up with characters and voices really fast based on what you're seeing.
Right.
You know, well, when you audition for something before it's made, which is most of the time, you're not seeing any of it. Sometimes they don't even have the artwork. You don't even know what style it's in.
Right.
It could be in the style of The Simpsons, which is, more about playing it, or Family Guy or something like that, where it's played a little more like a sitcom, kind of real people in a sitcom kind of thing, than it is played with these, like say when I did the Smurfs, I played Crazy Smurf, and he only talks with sound effects, like, that kind of stuff, So there's a big, huge gamut in between of all the different things you have to do. So it's a lot of imagination. You have to try to get yourself in the head of the people that are, making the cartoon. If you know the people that you're working with, whether it's Klasky Chupo, who did Rugrats, and winding up doing Ray Rocket on Rocket Power.
Right.
Otto, did you do your homework? If you know that style of what the different people are doing, then you're gonna, that's gonna help you make some decisions. But mostly you're just going off the material. You don't always have any more. Used to have a lot more opportunity with the director. You show up and you audition, and they give you some direction. They go, you know what, we're going really big with this, or not so big. We're going smaller with this, or oh, he's falling off a building. He didn't say it right now, but we're going to do it that way. Blah blah blah. Now I do most of my auditioning from home without any kind of direction. So, I have to, try to get a sense of what I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do as far as the voices and stuff. There's certain things that influence the type of voice that you would do, the age of the character, how serious or comical they may be, or, they give you some information. Sometimes they even give you a voice reference of something that they're looking for, and then they may go, oh, we want a Steve Buscemi type. It's like, I'm not going to do an impersonation of Steve Buscemi.
Right.
I'm going to do something that's, maybe a little mushy mouth, but I live in Steve Buscemi, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Steve Buscemi's got a voice that everybody's going to go, that's Steve Buscemi as soon as you do it, you know what I mean?
Right.
Have you ever watched any of the cartoons after you've done them and said, you know what, that look is because of how I did the voice?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, especially when you do stuff like, Pocahontas, where I played Miko the raccoon. I mean, they're totally they sit in there recording you while you're in the studio doing it, and they're taking some of your physicality and they're plugging it into the character.
Right. And then you said some of the stuff you do after they finish the animation. Do you have to follow a script because they've already animated the mouth movements, or do you?
Most of the time, sometimes they want to change. Sometimes you're doing it because they want to change the dialogue that they did. But the animation is so good right now, usually it has to fit right in with it. It's basically like lip syncing a real performance. But then, when you see, you go see Monsters University, and they show up the little Billy Crystal character, the one with the one eye, shows up on the campus of this university, and he's walking through the quad. And, they're playing all these characters playing Frisbee and all these, things. We'll go in as a loop group and do all those voices. Somebody will go, oh, we need that guy over there. We need that guy over there. We want some General Walla. And then we're going to, as that guy walks by, we want to hear what his conversation is,
Right.
And that kind of stuff. And we're just making it up.
Wow.
I mean, we're literally improvising it as it happens. You may go, it looks like he's saying, hey, let's all go over to, get a milkshake, or that kind of thing, and if you're not seeing the lips move or whatever, and you can make it fit to what they're doing, then you can, have a lot more freedom. But as soon as you're seeing the lips or the mouth move, you're beholden to try to, and a lot of times they've already figured out what they want it to be.
Right.
But part of your job is to, help them figure that out.
I'd imagine that with someone of your talent, that they actually have you come in because they know you're going to make something up that's good. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, most of the group of especially loop groupers and stuff like that are coming in, and they all have worked in improv groups and stuff. But a lot of times they bring me in because they need creatures or
right.
Kind of monsters or that kind of thing, which is really hard on your voice. But it's the kind of thing you like to do. I have some fun stuff coming out that I can't reveal yet.
That's fine.
I'm doing a one for Disney right now. That's
really? Wow.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
What do you think of the change from paper drawn animation to computer animation? Doesn't it not look as good?
It really depends. Some of it's really good and some of it's not.
Right.
It's the difference between motion capture these days. You'll watch a game and you'll go, it doesn't look so great. And the only reason it doesn't look so great is because they didn't have the billions of dollars to put it together like the way they do, with some of the movies.
Right.
Planet of the Apes or whatever.
Right. I mean, the first thing I always notice is if they do like a shot where the camera circles around someone, you're like, that's computer animation. There's no way they drew that. It doesn't fit in, I used to love, The Lion King was pencil drawn. And,
right.
I mean, you could just tell. You can tell. You can tell.
Yeah. Well, it's a different style for
right.
sure.
And every movement is smooth.
The 3D stuff is like a whole new thing. It's like if you get a chance, go back and watch something like Despicable Me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
it's almost like a marriage of the two.
I actually watched that because I saw Minions.
Yeah.
I saw Minions, and I'm like, I wonder what Despicable Me is about.
I love Minions.
Yeah.
Despicable Me is great.
Yeah.
But when you look at the animation, especially if you get a chance to see it in 3D, you're like,
right.
oh, wow, it kind of feels like it's old animation, but it's so freaking great, and it's, and it's so tangible. I mean, it's like, it has a different kind of thing. So it almost is a cross between, hand-drawn and computer-generated animation.
3D has definitely come somewhere. I remember seeing Jaws 3D with the red and the red and green. It's fucking awful. But I mean, I know it's probably not your speed. Well, it might be. But the first 3D movie I watched was Jackass 3D. It was.
Yeah, there you go.
There's nothing funny. I was watching.
You just vomited in my lap.
Yeah, exactly.
That was awesome.
Fucking dildo flying out of the screen at you.
Yeah.
So how did you transition into doing video games? Did it just happen, or is that something?
People just started asking me to do them. It's part of the voiceover world, and you audition for, the people, some of the same casting people that cast you in the movies and TV shows and stuff also do the same. They're also voice directors for games and
right.
that kind of thing. And a lot of the same people hire you over and over again. I do a lot of stuff for Warner Brothers. I was in all the, the Batman Arkham games and that kind of stuff. So I've worked for them. Obviously a bit over the years, and do some stuff for Disney and do some stuff for some of the other studios used to have more animation. Universal used to have their own TV animation department, and they used to do a bunch of cartoons, but they don't do them anymore. But that was a lot of fun.
A lot of it's done overseas now, right? Like The Simpsons, I think, is done overseas, a lot of it, and some of the other stuff, which is a real shame because I guess it's because of the computer thing, right? Because when the pencil drawn stuff, the guys over here were just off the hook, in Disney and the early stuff. But now I guess you can do computer animation anyway.
You're talking about the animators?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about money. It's all about, affording it. And, it's like they start out like it looks like shit, and then eventually wherever they're doing it at such a good rate that they, and that kind of thing, that they eventually become good at it. It was just like shooting in Vancouver. They were shooting in Vancouver, and they were shooting Toronto for New York, and all these things. So it was cheaper to shoot in Canada. And so, at first it was like, well, we don't have a good crew. We can't get good cameramen. We can't get good this. But over time, people are going to start stepping up and learning the craft, and eventually they're going to start attracting, top talent. And the next thing you know, they're doing it as well as anybody else, and they're saving money doing it. It's just a shame because I think that, in today's economy and stuff, we should try harder to do everything here in the States if we can.
You know what it is, though? It's the whole... I don't want to blame the unions yet again, but, who's going to pay someone $200 an hour when they can get it overseas for $20 an hour? it's a very hard conversation.
I mean, most of the time it's worth it. You know, I mean, it's the money that they spend on talent is, you know, I mean, there are a lot of other positions that make more money than the talent do.
Right.
You know, except for the people with their name above the title, everybody else is getting paid shit. Not shit, you know. I mean, if you're working steady, you're getting paid over it. Right. You know why all the stars want to do television now? Because the movies don't pay as much anymore.
Yeah, unless you're like a huge name. Unless you're like a massive name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're doing commercials too, because they know that what celebrity brings them is a paycheck.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what material they do. They still get a chance to do the movies that they wanted to do and make a couple of $1 million doing a car commercial. You know, they're going to do it.
Right.
You know, and I don't blame them. You know, I've made a career for 35 years because I'm versatile, or I've made sure that I'm versatile. That if I'm not working, you know, on voiceover, I'm working on camera. If I'm not working in television, I'm working on a movie. If I'm not working on a movie, you know, I'm doing a commercial. If I'm not doing a commercial, you know, I'm working in the theater. Mm-hmm. You know,
John, when you did the 2 movies with the Crypt Keeper, did they at least pay you respectable for those the Demon Knight?
You know, I'm not going to complain about what I got paid. It was okay, but it wasn't what I should have got paid.
Right.
I mean, it's just, you know, that's just the way it is.
It could have been worse.
You know, you got the bigger the producers, very often the cheaper they are.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
but you know, that's just the way it works. I mean, I never complained about it, but you know, it's, you know.
Did you ever get motion captured for any of these games, or was it just voiceover stuff?
Oh yeah, I've done motion capture. Jack the Giant Slayer was all motion capture. That was the top motion capture. That was all the guys from Avatar.
Wow.
And that was, you know, that was all the stuff. Those are the guys that do Planet of the Apes and all these guys. You know, I mean, that's a $200 million movie.
Wow.
And you know, because they had to join Bill Nighy and I into one character.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it was a pretty amazing process. They go as far as they can trying to, you know, capture you, you know, so you come through in the character. It's, you know, I mean, basically when you see what they've captured, you look at it and you're like, oh my God, it's just kind of like a kabuki version of myself. In fact, they call it a kabuki. And
it could have been worse. If you did it 20 years earlier, you would have been in a costume and Bill Nighy would have been the other end of you.
Yeah, right. We would have been tied together. It would have, you know, that would have been like, you know, they would have put a mechanical head on his shoulder like they did in, you know, try to get ahead in business.
It would have been like Evil Dead, where the one head looks really crappy and the other head.
Yeah, right.
You know? It's funny you mentioned commercials because I often in England they obviously have TV shows about commercials around the world, and they always find like George Clooney doing an advert in Japan for like some shitty car.
Yeah, right.
But you never see it over here because they don't want you to see it. But he's doing some, you know.
Now he's doing the espresso commercials here.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Chris, you had a question? Or?
You don't want anybody to know that he's desperate for work.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So you can't give us anything about what you're doing now? Just a little. No. Obviously, the Disney thing, you probably can't do anything like that.
No, I can't. Yeah. But you sign these in non-disclosure agreements.
Oh,
but you'll know soon enough. Just put it this way: I'm playing a mythical character in a live-action movie.
Oh, that's cool.
But you know, I'm staying busy. I'm doing games and cartoons, and you know, there hasn't been as much on-camera stuff. You know, I had a good year last year with some fun stuff I got to do. Really nice guest star. Some of my favorite things that I did last year, besides some of the independent film stuff that I've been doing. I did a NCIS where you know, Robert Wagner. I was playing an old friend of Robert Wagner's, and I had a blast shooting with him. And then I did a Hot in Cleveland where I was playing the Pope. They only shot me from behind. And I played the Pope on a date with Betty White, which was...
Wow, what year was this?
This was last year.
Oh, my God.
This was last year. Go find it. You'll find it. Just say Betty White and the Pope or
She was
whatever.
funny in that Super Bowl commercial. I can't remember what it was for, but...
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, she did a funny Super Bowl commercial a couple of years ago, I think.
Oh God, yeah, where they took her out.
Yeah.
She's like she comes out of the field and they just tackle her.
Yeah, yeah.
So looking
looking
back
But,
at all these crazy voiceovers you've done, what do you still think that Tales from the Crypt was the one you most enjoyed?
Well, first of all, I love horror from the time I was a kid. Secondly, I also love Tales from the Crypt from the time I was a kid. Certainly, you can't. In your career, you create all kinds of characters. I did, 8 TV series that went to pilots. I did many more pilots than that, but eight shows that went to series and were on for, X amount of time or whatever. And you probably, half of them you wouldn't even know them by name, and other ones you may have seen a couple of episodes of or something like that over the years and not even realize it was me that was on it. But you do something that's like everybody knows about it. The people that were involved in it did a really good job. You feel like you did a good job in it and you created something that's iconic. And, obviously it's fun to do and, also it's special to you because for that reason. If you have one of those things in your careers that everybody remembers, and now it's more popular than it ever was, not only because horror is more popular, but because the kids that watched it when they were young or have grown up, and it's like, this was special to me.
Yeah.
He was my Vincent Price. He was my Alfred Hitchcock. He was my, whoever.
I know what you're saying because, like my daughter will be like, oh yeah, Tales from the Crypt, but when I ask her if she's seen Back to the Future, she's like, what's that? I'm like, what? I had to put a gunpoint. I had to have her watch Back to the Future.
Yeah. Well, maybe, who knows? Maybe Tales from the Crypt will be back on the air in its original form someday. Whether this new version will ever get up on, get on the air or not, I don't know. I have no idea.
You got to think of a different name for yourself that sounds like Crypt Keeper.
I was going to say it would be great if you would be a part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, they're always trying to pimp out the Crypt Keeper. Oh, I know. It'd be fun to be a part of it. There were some other producers that were trying to do something different that didn't have the rights to the Crypt Keeper either, and they wanted to involve me as an actor on the show. As the same way that Alfred Hitchcock used to put himself in his movies and stuff. And but I don't know if any of that will ever happen at this point with this particular project. I could only hope and want to. Here's the scenario. It could be if they do it, it does wind up getting done. It could be really great, and I could be in it. That's the best scenario. It could be great, and I'm not in it, or it could be lousy, and I'm not in it, or it could be lousy and I'm in it, and that's the worst scenario.
Right.
So there's all those possibilities. So time may tell, and they may not be able to get it launched or for whatever reason, and then rights may come up again, and my guys might be able to get the rights back, and you may see the Crypt Keeper again. I don't know. They're always trying to find something for the Crypt Keeper character to relaunch him as somebody, the same character with a different name, and bring him to you because he's a great storyteller. He's a great character.
If they got the rights to the Crypt Keeper and then not to the rest of the TV show, would you be interested in doing a Crypt Keeper presents, whatever?
Sure, of course, yeah. You would, a character like this, you wouldn't want to hand over to somebody else.
Right. No. Were you disappointed that they didn't do a lot of the stories from the comic books in the TV show?
The original were all done from stories from the comic books.
Oh, really?
Every single one of them
was
based on a comic book story.
I guess I read bullshit information.
Who told you what they weren't?
Wikipedia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did it say?
It said something along. I haven't got it in front of me, but it said something along the lines of. It had one sentence that said that only a few were based on the comic books, and then it had another sentence where it said a few of them were. I got to look it up again, but it was the Wikipedia on the TV series I was reading.
No, I can guarantee you they were all based on, they had the rights to 500 stories.
Wow.
And they weren't all Tales from the Crypt comic books. They were all EC comic books, but they were Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Vault, Two-Fisted Tales, all these different comic books that were in the same genre that EC had put out at the same time in the
Right.
50s and 60s. When they licensed these comic books from the Gaines family, that's where they got the stories.
Now, is it true that the Frighteners was going to be a Tales from the Crypt story, and then they
It
decided
was, that was Bob, that was Peter Jackson, but Bob Zemeckis was involved with that, and that he wanted it to be, originally a Tales from the Crypt movie. It was originally going to be a Tales from the Crypt movie.
Wow. Peter Jackson's an interesting story because did you ever see his first movie called Bad Taste?
Yes, and then I also liked, what was the one with the
The lawnmower?
Two girls did the, was it Kate Winslet? No, it was Kate Winslet.
There was a movie where they had a guy killed all these dead grannies with a lawnmower at the end of it. What the hell was that? It was the most glorious. It was the goriest film you've ever seen. I have to look this up real quick.
That sounds great. Well, I've had the pleasure of auditioning for Peter a couple of times. He liked my work on Tales from the Crypt, and the casting director Victoria Burrows for Peter was, would bring me in for him, and it got down to me and Jeffrey Combs for the Nazi ghost hunter in Frighteners. And then also I was up for Worm Tongue in the which is the part that Brad Dourif played in the Lord of the Ring movies.
Right.
Although that one I don't feel like I knew exactly what he was looking for, so I don't think I gave a good audition. The other one though, I came and I kind of played him like Nixon. And he liked it a lot, but ultimately I didn't get cast. But Peter's brilliant.
Yeah, the movie
really
with the
man.
lawnmower is called Dead Alive. In
Dead Alive.
In England, it was called Brain Dead. And
Yeah.
it's about someone's mother that gets bitten by a rat, dies, and then comes back to life. And then all these nurses and neighbors and everybody, and this one kid's stuck there. And he uses one of those lawnmowers, the round type one that spins around with the metal, and he lifts it up, and he's like hacking all these grandmas, these rabid grandmas out of the way.
Nice.
Yes, right up your street, I'd imagine, if you're a horror fan. Definitely. All right, let's just talk about...
Walker Dead.
Yeah. Really? That's pretty clever.
These are the puns, folks.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Monster Mania real quick.
Yes, Monster Mania.
Yeah, the whole
I'll
point
be
of
in
this
your
phone
area, Cherry Hill.
Yeah, you're from March 10th to 13th, and you can...
That's right. A week from today, through the entire weekend, Monster Mania.
Right, and you
Come
can go to
see me.
You can go to monstermania.net to see everyone that's going to be there. You're going to see John Kassir, or I pronounced his name wrong again. Kassir.
Don't make me come to the phone.
That sounds very posh. Kassir. Can you do a bumper for us?
Real quick.
Yeah, I don't care how long you want to do it and how many characters you want to do. Just do a Dysfunctional podcast with No Filter Paul and Denise.
Say the last part.
With No Filter Paul and Denise. If you want to
say
just
it all one more
if
time.
you want to just say Dysfunctional podcast, then just do that. That's fine.
just
Dysfunctional podcast.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, creeps. It's your old pal, the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Dysfunctional Podcast.
I love it.
That is so awesome.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
John,
Thank you so much.
John, we really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
We really, really appreciate how long you've been on the phone with us. It was very, very interesting. A lot of
Well,
insight.
you asked good questions. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I did a ton of research. Of course, some of it was obviously complete bullshit I was reading, but at least some of it was right.
But you can't believe what you read on Wikipedia, because
Yeah.
anybody can go on and change shit on there.
Right.
so.
Well, half the stuff you mentioned you were in is not even listed on there. So.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and most of
I
it was
know.
the stuff I would have seen. I mean, obviously I've seen Cat Dog. When I was my daughter was a kid, I just sit and
We
watch
used
that.
to always watch that.
Rugrats, and all that
All
kind of
those kind
stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, good
He's
luck
had
in
an
the
amazing career, and we just wish you the best.
good luck in the
Oh,
future.
thanks, and the same to you. I'll let you know when I got something else going on to plug, and
All right.
we'll do it again.
Great.
Absolutely,
All right.
and
Appreciate it.
I'll do
Okay,
some
John.
I'll do some good research that time.
All right, kitty.
All right.
Take care.
All right, thank you
Take
so
care,
much,
John.
John.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye
All
bye
right,
now.
take care. Bye bye.